March is upon us, and so as we march forward together on the mission to grow Substream News, we ask you to kindly subscribe to the channel. All you have to do is swipe down, tap on subscribe, and give us a super like. Don't swipe left, definitely swipe right, and remember to send us a message first. Hang on, am I getting things confused? I think that's because our first video today is about Tinder addiction. One British gentleman had to seek professional psychological help for his Tinder addiction. So this is Ed Turner, 27, from the UK, and he claims he was swiping about 500 women per day. He was only matching about 5% of them, and even fewer than that were striking up a conversation. Now, the funny thing is, Ed actually admitted that despite overusing the app or getting an obsessive compulsive desire to use the app, he actually had no intention of meeting the women or striking up a relationship or hooking up or anything. He just was seeking validation, and he was finding it through Tinder. Well, it wasn't just Tinder, it was also Bumble and Hinge where he found his addictions. And he actually has this quote which says, "Validation from others was the only thing keeping me going." And then he added, "I would get highs when I was getting a lot of matches with people that I found attractive, but it would always be followed by a crash because it's not sustainable." Now, the next part's a little bit sad. He said, "Since I was swiping right on everyone and fully engulfed in the game, I lost all sense of self. Dating apps turned sex, communication, and love into an actual game and distorted reality." Now, there's a real risk to letting technology take over parts of our lives, and we all do it. We've deferred our mathematical ability to the calculators in our phones. We've deferred our writing skills to keyboards, and for many people, we've deferred our romantic and conversational abilities to apps. And so we get to know people in these ways, and it's dangerous. And if you've watched recent videos where we've covered AI chatbots for the dead, for loved ones, and AI boyfriends, you'll understand that there are risks and that people do distort reality. And that's kind of the second part of this story about Ed, because he did take a break. He managed to find the courage and strength to stop his Tinder addiction, and he started a real life relationship. The problem was he hadn't actually cured his Tinder addiction, and he relapsed because he couldn't stop thinking about playing Tinder. And it's quite sad, and it ended up destroying his relationship, and he ended up back on Tinder. Now, as I said, he sought professional help, and they diagnosed him with borderline personality disorder and with depression. And that is quite a sad end to this story. But the bigger picture is actually Tinder is being sued, and it's being sued by a group of people that claim that the app's algorithm is actually designed to keep them apart from people they may actually love. Isn't that strange? Since the whole premise of the app is to help people find love and connections, you would think, like with other social media and apps, the actual goal from their side is to keep you on the app as long as possible. And if they do help you find love and connections, you will leave the app. So there is definitely something in that case. And we're not accusing Tinder of anything there, but we know how tech companies think and what lengths they're willing to go to. So just be careful next time you consider using a dating app, whether you could get addictive or the app is trying to keep you there forever. Let's swipe left on this story and move on to another one. And welcome to Late Capitalism, because it is another story about a predatory business model taking advantage of its consumers. What a surprise. Well, this time it's Wendy's, and that's a US food chain. I'm not familiar with it, but reading the news, I was shocked when I saw this story. They've spent millions to update their menu boards, and with these fancy new digital dynamic boards where the prices can change. And this technique has been used quite popularly or unpopularly by Uber with Uber Surge. So when a lot of people are trying to get a taxi, the price goes up. Could the same happen for fast food? Well, Wendy's have made it very clear that's not their intention, but they were a bit late to clarify that. So their original press release went out and everybody thought the same thing. Wendy's wants to introduce surge pricing for fast food. They were quite quick in response because I think they didn't even foresee that people might see this. Their claim that their intentions were actually to drop prices during low periods to stimulate business when there's not many people in the restaurant, which is a really good idea. You know, they can run promotions to help sell certain things that are less popular. It can be very effective for stock management when they have an abundance or a shortage of something. And generally it could help to introduce new menu items to people, and can, you know, when there's new ranges of food, it's a great way to introduce them. So I think the idea was great, but the delivery was all wrong, and so they're now fighting a bit of a fire to prove that they are not trying to introduce surge pricing. But not everyone is against it. I mean, the average consumer, of course, probably doesn't want to pay surge pricing at their local fast food restaurant. But there's a quote here, and this is from Jonathan Mays, who's editor-in-chief of trade publication Restaurant Business magazine. He says surge pricing could be a turning point. If Wendy's idea works, it could get others to do something similar. And I wouldn't be surprised to see another chain or two test the idea themselves, given what Wendy's is doing. The idea that a restaurant chain would potentially raise prices during busy times of day, even if consumers think they're raising prices, then it could lead to a backlash. They'll have to tread carefully. This is why we haven't seen a lot of it. Look, whether it's taxis, sports tickets, fast food, whatever, I personally am not a fan of surge pricing. Are you? Do you think it's a good idea? Are you happy to pay more when things are busy? Let us know in the comments what are those services and products that when you need them, you're just happy to pay extra. Okay, imagine this. You're a university student in Canada. You get a bit thirsty or peckish. You walk over to the vending machine and there's a little message on the screen that says inventor.vending.facial recognition.app.exe application error. You might think, that's weird, how strange, and just walk away. But you might have your curiosity piqued, and if you are Reddit user SquidKid47, you make a post about it that goes viral. Well, this is exactly what happened. It did go viral, and that's because a fellow student, River Stanley, who writes for Math News, which is a student publication, picked up the story, did further investigative research. Kudos to you. Love to see it. And actually, went and looked at Adaria and Invenda, which is the provider and the owner of the machines, and, found out that there is facial recognition in these vending machines, and that is shocking. So, Adaria Vending Services did say an individual person cannot be identified using the technology in the machine. So that's good news. So then what are they used for? Well, here it is. What's most important to understand is that the machines do not take or store any photos or images, and an individual person cannot be identified in the machines. The technology acts as a motion sensor that detects faces, so the machine knows when to activate the purchasing interface, never taking or storing images of customers. Only the final data, namely presence of a person, estimated age and estimated gender, is collected without any association with an individual. As you can imagine, the students at the University of Waterloo in Canada were in uproar. And even if their data was not being stored, they had every right to be furious, purely because a machine is judging them in what is an educational safe space. Really, there's no place for that kind of technology, and that's what they fought about, and the university agreed and has taken away the machines. And here's the official quote from Rebecca Elming, a representative of the University of Waterloo. She says, "The university has asked that these machines be removed from campus as soon as possible. In the meantime, we've asked that the software be disabled. I think this story is a bit of a victory because invasive and uninvited technology, well, it has no place, does it? We want technology that helps and progresses us and doesn't judge us and complicate things. On to a bit of a lighter story now, and the information or the data has been revealed about the world's strongest passports, and there are some new winners or some new names at the top of the pile. You may be surprised to hear. So for the last 5 years, Japan and Singapore have been tied number one, but there are 4 new entrants to share first place with them. Start thinking now who they might be and why, and I will reveal all. What do I mean by the world's best or most powerful passports? Well, there are 227 visa regions in the world, and Japan and Singapore get visa-free access to 194 countries, and they are joined by, are you ready? France, Germany, Spain, and Italy. So all of these countries get visa-free access to 194 countries. So there's no US, UK, Australia at the top of the pile, not anymore. Now you might be thinking, well, how did they get to first place? Why were they not on 194? Why were they on 193? Well, it's thanks to China. China has added 50 countries to its visa waiver list, and that means people in these countries can go to China much easier. Now, in second place, on 193 visa-free access countries, you have Finland, Sweden, and South Korea, or the passports from those countries. Just behind them, with 192, are Austria, Denmark, Ireland, and the Netherlands. Still no US and UK. Well, the US, UK, and Canada used to be the most powerful passports in the world. Well, what happened? Politics. We don't like to talk politics here on Substream News, so we'll keep it brief. It's just that they have weaker relations with some nations, they have some diplomatic issues with others, and a lot of it's actually to do with reciprocity. So if one country forces a visa on another, that country usually mirrors them, and it takes diplomacy to end those terms and make a visa-free access. So that's usually the case of why presumably more power countries are further down the list. But there's a bit of bad news to finish this story. It's actually Americans, Canadians, Mexicans, and some of the stronger South American passports like Argentina and Brazil are actually going to fall further on the list. And that is because Europe is changing its visa policies in 2025. So nothing to worry about right now, but next year the situation will change and you will require different kind of visas for European travel. Boom! And on to our final note. Oh, it's nothing to do with guns. That noise actually was to signify the gunshot sound made by the Danionella cerebellum fish. It's a tiny fish measuring the width of a fingernail. That's it. It's tiny, 12 millimeters in width. They're just tiny, but they can create sounds of about 140 decibels, which is incredible. Just to put that into perspective, what is 140 decibels? Well, it's around the noise of a gunshot, obviously depends on the gun, but it's about the sound of a jackhammer or an ambulance siren. That, if that puts things in perspective, that a fish the size of a fingernail can make a sound that loud, that is quite incredible. And actually, that's not the only fact about this fish, that it's one of the loudest creatures in the world. It actually has the smallest brain of any known vertebrate in the world, even smaller than myself. So, of course, this was a huge mystery to scientists. Why would such a small, strange fish create such a big sound? It defies logic. Well, previously, they couldn't provide a plausible explanation, but scientists at Charité University in Berlin have found why. And it turns out the fish has a unique sound production system involving a drumming cartilage, specialized rib, and a fatigue-resistant muscle. And this allows the fish to accelerate the drumming cartilage at extreme forces and generate rapid, loud pulses. Now, I must add, it's also only the male that can do this. The rib of the female is a bit different and doesn't allow for the sound. So the quote from the paper says, "Understanding this extraordinary adaptation expands our knowledge of animal motion and highlights the remarkable diversity of propulsion mechanisms across species, contributing to our broader understanding of evolutionary biology and biomechanics." Wow. Now they know how they do it. Do they know why? Unfortunately not, but maybe in a future Substream news video we will be able to tell you. Please like and subscribe this video because they're just guessing. Navigation, dominance, mating, they have no idea why the Danionella cerebellum makes the noise it does. But if you want to learn more about random topics, tech, culture, futurism, dystopia, science, and all of the other weird and wonderful things that we cover on this channel, please subscribe. I am Joseph, I'm your presenter. It's been my pleasure to present this video to you. I will see you next week. Thank you very much.